Jim and Jason, we bought you a little token of our appreciation for all that you've done for the last 5 years for South County.
I know. Yeah, this is very nice. Thank you very much. I don't know how much money it costs. I might have to buy the setup for doing this, but it's a high level. Yeah, thank you very much, and thank all of you for your service, and thank you for being here.
It goes on the front end.
So that everybody else will know why we gave this to Jim and Jason. It is presented with respect and appreciation to Jim and Jason Savell for their tremendous contributions to sustaining the traditions and honor with which we serve. From the men of our 75th grade, 9 November 2024.
People that can't even make it that money to help this. We have generous brothers. That's how this process happens.
Okay, all the married men that have their wives with you, girlfriends, if you got a boyfriend, don't come out
Everybody here, John Shook. I was probably the last person ever signed out for something because the way orders were cut. And I got there and they said, "Oh, we're deactivating. What are you doing here?" Okay, I'm here. But I just brought you a little gift to thank you for inviting me and my wife to your town. So, you know, you can take it. Thank you for it.
We're going off script here.
Okay.
In Carlisle, funeral service, Dean Smith and Elizabeth came up, drove all the way from San Antonio. And I was admiring his hat. I said, man, that's a good looking hat. And a few weeks later, I got a brand new Ranger hat from Dean Smith. And then he passed away. So this is I could have gotten a prettier hat. This one's got character.
Yeah, he wears everywhere, and anytime you would go somewhere, anywhere we were, people would see that, and they would say, "Rangers lead the way," and he would turn around and say, "We're all the way there and back." Yeah. In December of 1974, I, Bain Boyd Smith, was a member of the 1st Ranger Battalion, 75th Infantry at Fort Stewart, Georgia. We were driven to Hunter Army Airfield and were rigged up for a parachute jump. The newly opened destination was Taylor Creek Drop Zone. Our battalion did not have enough qualified jump masters to conduct this parachute operation. Several jump masters from Fort Bragg were sent in to the battalion on temporary duty to conduct the airborne operation. At this time in my career, I had approximately 20 parachute jumps. This would be my first jump while carrying a WEC bag, weapon equipment container bag. The container was attached to me during the short flight from Hunter Army Airfield, Georgia to Taylor Creek Drop Zone in Fort Stewart, Georgia. I was placed behind the first man at the jump door. Walking was this large rectangular WEC was extremely difficult. Being this close to the door was necessary to continue moving the remaining parachutes. The jump master told me that all I needed to do was to pull that large red knob on top of the container. When the green light came on, I made a good exit. The sky was gray, with no one around below me. I wanted to make sure that the Weezy bag would land ahead of me so that I could make a good PLF, parachute landing fall. I pulled the red knob attached to the top of the Weezy. The knob did not disengage. At this time, I was about 300 feet from the ground. I became frantic, and I kept pulling that red knob. Then I thought that if I could just twist at the waist at the perfect time on contact with the ground, then maybe I could minimize my impact and any injuries. This was going to be nearly impossible because the Weezy separated my legs, my feet. I kept my toes pointed downwards anyway, and I would try to do a good PLF. Looking at the ground, I saw a Jeep at my 2 o'clock point of direction and a Red Cross ambulance at my 4 o'clock direction, racing towards my estimated drift point of contact with the ground. The rate of descent was fast, and all I could think of was, how badly would my injuries be? Suddenly, I hit the ground. My toes were in the sand, and the Weezy was implanted in the ground. It left my body in a standing position. I couldn't breathe. Everything on my body ached. I then realized my battalion executive officer, Major Hudson, was on my right side, holding me upright while the medics were disconnecting the Weezy and the parachutes from my body. The XO kept talking to me in a clear, loud voice saying that I would be all right, and that the medics would have men in the hospital in no time. He quickly carried me to the ambulance once I was disconnected from my equipment and the parachutes. I only remember being carried onto a stretcher into a crowded room with a bunch of bloody and broken men. A couple of these rangers were delirious from the pain and were given medication. One ranger had a tree limb impaled into his buttocks. Another ranger had a tree branch stuck above his head. There was blood all over their uniforms. It was a horrific and traumatizing scene. Although I hurt all over my body, I considered myself fortunate seeing their conditions. I was pretty sure my back was broken, and after a couple of hours, most of my pain was on my left leg above my ankle. My front leg was swelling and throbbing. I could see that my ankle broke, but the bone did not break through the skin. My knees were swollen, and the pain was dull on the inside of both my knees. There was one medical personnel walking around amongst us in a state of shock. They were unprepared. They did not expect this chaos. At first, he was not doing anything but looking at us, suffering. It was obvious that no one had anticipated men rolling onto a freshly bush hog drop zone. The small saplings and the brush, hog drop zone. The small saplings and the brush acted like punji sticks. After a few hours, the men walking around took me to a gentleman that said he was a doctor. He said that I had a sprained ankle, although I could feel and see the lump of the broken bone protruding. Then they put a walking cast on me and said that I could return to work. I could not go out to the field with my hands into the swamps, so I was told to unload trucks or just to quit and get reassigned to another unit. For several days, I was humiliated and embarrassed because of the excruciating, agonizing pain that I felt from walking around. I couldn't stop the tears or the pain for days. After 10 days, the field exercise was over, and now I could go home to Texas and recuperate over the Christmas leave. And he puts RLTW, Rangers Lead the Way.